Hey everyone, Dr. Miguel Alvarez here, and I'm going to talk about why you might want to hire a consultant if you are going through a custody evaluation, mediation, family court services, collaborative divorce process, or even if you are just thinking about getting a divorce, talking to your spouse about it, then talking to your children about it, and then making the right moves. So, who am I? I'm Dr. Miguel Alvarez. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist in both California and Hawaii. I routinely do custody evaluations, mediation. I've done collaborative divorce. I've worked in conjoint therapy, difficult situations where we're trying to reunite a child with another parent that often has, sometimes hasn't heard negative narratives about the other parent during a divorce process. And more importantly, I do a whole lot of consulting. I consult for parents who are going through situations like that, and I consult with their attorneys. I consult with both. Why? Because it's not only important for a client to know what the best choices are, what the best behaviors are for them to take while going through these processes, but it's also really important that those efforts are coordinated with their attorney who's overseeing, directing, and running the basic case. I will never tell a client to take my advice over their attorney's advice, even if I have a specific opinion about something, because there are times when the mental health professional's perspective might differ somewhat from legal advice. And that's why it's really important to have both of those sources of information coordinated. People often think that getting a separation and divorce is pretty straightforward. It's not a complicated thing, that their soon-to-be ex-spouse is going to behave honorably, hopefully, despite their differences. And what I have learned, of course, is that really that's often not the case. You could have a spouse that you think is someone who's willing to work with you in your best interest and in the children's best interest, but later find out, often because of some kind of emotional damage, as they say, there's an ego blow to them, especially if you're the one who's going to be starting the divorce, looking for the separation, and to move on. There are often parents who they just can't take it. And then guess what? Suddenly, all bets are off, and you're in a position where you might see a whole different side to that parent. You might or you might not, but either way, it makes sense to walk through it in a very specific way. I'm going to give you an example in a moment, one of many that I've seen over the years repeat itself. Why? Because somebody, a very smart, intelligent, well-educated, reasonable person with presumably a spouse that checks all of those boxes too, learned the hard way that when you don't anticipate things that are easily anticipated by someone in this field, you find yourself at a tremendous disadvantage, especially when it comes to custody, and that's something that you don't want to do. This will be just one of many examples where a consultant could be helpful to you in your cause. Of course, the sooner you involve a consultant, the better it is for you, because you don't want to make those mistakes and then try to spend years undoing damage that could have probably been easily avoided, if not minimized from the get-go. Two things about hiring a consultant. One, I could do what is simply called a prep or a preparation. This is often for family court services, but it could be used as well for mediation or custody evaluation, or just for a parent who's thinking about separating from the other parent and then initiating a separation and a divorce, moving into custody. What's involved in a prep? First off, it's a flat rate. I typically will spend time with the parent's attorney ahead of time, so that way the attorney can give me a rundown of the pros, the cons, the concerns regarding what's going on in a given situation. This way, when I end up meeting with the client for the first and only time, usually roughly about a 2.5 to 3 hour visit, I already know what's going on, what's important. I have details about the case. In fact, I often have their attorney send me documents related to the file that could be relevant for whatever it is that they're about to face. Most often I do these for family court services, but again, I could also do these for mediation, custody evaluation, or other kinds of scenarios as well. The second option is when I'm hired to be a consultant on an ongoing basis. I will typically run a similar scenario. I'll talk to the attorney, I'll get the relevant information, I'll meet with the client for 2.5 to 3 hours for our initial meeting to figure out where they're at, what's going on, and give them as much direction as I possibly can within that first meeting to get them squared away and on a really good track. And then I'll follow up with the attorney and tell the attorney what it was that we talked about, what I saw as strengths and weaknesses. And all of this, by the way, is designed to help you and your attorney put your best foot forward in this process and really maximize your presentation, maximize your strategy, maximize your positioning so that both you and your children will have a very satisfactory outcome, not to mention your co-parent as well. By the way, I don't do anything unethical in any of this kind of work. I won't cross any boundaries. I won't do stuff that some would call it perhaps cheating. Rather, what I do is I coach, I inform, and hopefully I empower and give you an opportunity to elevate your game moving forward, because that's what's going to be best for you and best for your children in the long run, pretty much every single time. So that's a prep. Once the prep is done, that's great. 9 out of 10 people walk out of here extremely happy with the information that I shared with them. 1 out of 10 people maybe not so happy because I gave them some bad news or I told them things that they were not willing or ready to hear. I'm going to be very honest with you in these sessions, and it's going to be your first shot at seeing and understanding where a mental health professional is likely going to be coming from as it relates to your specific scenario and your specific case. And even if you don't like what you're hearing, that's probably going to be really important information for you to have, because chances are somebody else is going to think exactly the same way. And why not figure that out first before you learn it the hard way when maybe it's already too late? Generally speaking, I do believe it's more than 9 out of 10 times people leave here feeling like the time, the energy, and the effort was well worth it. They're getting advice from someone who knows what's going on, not their friend, not their neighbor, not another mental health professional who doesn't specialize in this kind of work. And by the way, I've learned over the years that other mental health professionals, God bless them all, and I am one, are often the people who give some of the worst advice because they think they know what's going on here, but what they don't know is that their specific expertise really does not apply. And sometimes they apply it in ways that are really inappropriate for this particular field. I'm not picking on anyone in particular, but I can tell you from experience that I've seen many mental health professionals make the same mistake that other people make. They believe whoever gets to them first with the most information, assuming that they know everything that they need to know. They trust their clients, they're advocates for their clients, and lo and behold, they neglect the big picture, and that's one of the biggest possible mistakes. So enough about that. Consulting. In a consulting job, I am often hired by the attorneys. They will call me and say, hey, I need you to help me with this case. Here's the scenario. Talk to my client, get them squared away. Do your best to keep them on the rails in certain cases. Do your best to help them put their best foot forward in other cases. Do your best to keep them informed, and do your best to answer all of the questions that you, meaning me, have or has a specific expertise, in which I have a very specific expertise. There are very few people, and attorneys, even once you do custody evaluations, are not necessarily seeing them from the inside out the way I have done for going on a few decades now. And as good as they are, and there are some fantastic attorneys out there who can do an excellent job even related to custody. But even those attorneys often benefit from a second pair of eyes, from someone who can look at it from the custody evaluator's perspective. They're more than happy to hire me. And I will be talking about various scenarios in future videos, just giving you an idea as to why somebody would call on me and ask me for my expertise. In the consulting scenario, I'm available to the attorney and their client 24/7. I even give out my cell phone number. I'll give out my email address. I want to be there in real time as things are going down to give advice. It can be something as simple as, how do I respond to this email that I just got from my co-parent stating that they're going to put our child into another school? They've already enrolled them entirely without my consent, when I think there's a better school that's closer to all of us that would be better for our child. It could be something like, hey, help me analyze the results of this custody eval, or help me prepare for this custody eval, or this family court services meeting, or this mediation, or whatever else is going down in real time. I want to be there as needed. I'm not trying to ring up the bill, but I'm going to be there as needed to both you and your attorney to do team meetings, telephone calls, in-person meetings, review documents, and really help you maximize your position for your best interest and the best interest of your children, and hopefully your co-parent as well, as we're moving forward. That's what I do. And by the way, it's my favorite kind of work to do. Unlike other kinds of work where I am 100% a neutral, objective observer without an agenda other than to take care of the children, in this particular role, I remain somewhat neutral, as objective as I possibly can be. But remember, my agenda in these scenarios are to help you and your attorney to put your best foot forward. And you can definitely reach out to me if you want someone with this background and these skills on your team. So, love doing this kind of work, by the way.